Hi, everyone. Okay, so last session of the day before we party 80s style. Okay. Many years ago in Montreal, I attended the Police concert at McGill Stadium when they were first getting started. I was like in the front row. Oh my God, what a concert. It was amazing. I'm a big fan of the Police. Stuart Copeland was my idol. Okay, so scripting insights, top to bottom. My name is Vince Manano. Been developing solutions since FileMaker 2.1. Certified in 7 to 18. Talented, diverse team of people at Beeswax that I work with. I'm the author of Inspector Pro. By the way, in version 7, we have manual references. So what he was saying, you can track those scripts that are not, that you need to. So check that out. All right, things that I love. I love research and development. I love data visualization. I'm a big fan of data visualization. Big fan of D3. I've been using it for many years. I have some visualization thing I'll show you later today. I like hiking. I like sharp knives. And I like architecture, and I like parking backwards. Backwards is a great concept, Singapore style. Is that right? I've never been. It's this concept of being ready. It's very cool. This is in Germany. We visit Germany once a year with the kids. The kids are fluent in German, and people park backwards. Okay, so what I wanted to cover today is get you familiar with the fact that there are different scripting engines, and not all things are supported in all places. So it's good to understand what's there, how, and what's possible. So we'll cover the different scripting engines. We'll have an overview. We'll look at plugin support, where there is plugin support, where there is not plugin support, error logging, and asynchronous possibilities versus synchronous possibilities. And we'll look at file-based triggers and how they are affected, or how they can affect things. And then creative uses of what you have understood with this, and how to bypass certain things to do what you would like to do. So, and then we'll do a recap. All right, so overview. Scripting engines exist in different places, but it's the same code. It's just somehow in some places it's a little bit more extended because there is a UI with it. In other places it's just like there is no UI, but there's support for it. So as an example, when you say a script step like create new window and you run that on server, you ever notice it says virtual window? Right? You ever see that? Okay. So the code is the same. It's just got more extended support to have interface components for it. So there's a scripting engine in Pro or Advanced. There's a scripting engine in Go. There's a scripting engine for scheduled scripts, SASE process, so to speak. PSOS and scheduled scripts share the same SASE process. So when at some point they broke that off of the server process, and now it's in an independent process. And so on the server, you have your server process, and then you have your SASE process. And your scheduled scripts and PSOS scripts both run in that process. There's a scripting engine for WebDirect. So when you run scripts, they run in that scripting engine. There's a scripting engine for CWP, and there's another one for the data API. Again, these two are shared, and they work a little bit differently. Like there's a limitation on how many perform scripts on server that you can run, and you can set that number. Like I want to set the concurrent number of PSOS sessions that I can run to, let's say, 20 or 30, or there's a number, I think it was 500 at one point. Pardon me? I'm not home, by the way. So, getting ready for tonight. uh, you can set that to a really high number, but Simon, who's our IT person, who's got a computer science background, kind of warns us not to set it to a very high number because you can get reverse benefit. It can have a detrimental effect on performance. So you have to be very careful. I don't know the exact formula is, but it's somewhere like a number of cores times 2 or something like that. But anyway, the point is that with scheduled scripts, they don't have that limitation even though they run in the same engine. So there is a limitation to how many perform scripts on server you can run, and you can set that setting. Pro and Advanced, it has plugin support. It has error logging. It does not have error logging. It kind of has error logging now in 18 because you have this new script step called, what was it called? Set error logging or script logging error on? I don't remember. Set error logging, yeah. And so, but that will save a file locally. And then it's not hosted on, it's not like, something that you have to harvest out of that particular client and then put in a table and then look at all the errors that each user is getting. So it's not centrally located, but it's getting there. It doesn't have asynchronous support, so I can't run a script here and let it run in the background. So it doesn't have that support. And so again, the error logging is available with this set error logging script step. Go does not have plugin support necessarily, but you can build like an iOS SDK and get plugins to get in there that way, but it doesn't have natively plugin support. Error logging, you have it in the same way that you have Pro, and you also don't have asynchronous capabilities in Go when you fire scripts. You fire it, you're waiting for the script to complete. Okay, so scheduled scripts on server, they do have plugin support. They have error logging, which is great. So if you run a script on the server and it encounters an error, you can go to the event log and see what the error was and kind of troll through that and see what's happening with those scripts that are scheduled scripts. And it's asynchronous because you have different schedules that can run at different times and all that. So FileMaker Pro, the SASE process as well, can perform scripts on server, and it's using that same engine, and so it shares the same plugin support, error logging, and the asynchronous capabilities so that you can you can fire off one and don't wait, and you can fire off another one and don't wait, and even when that one is running, the other one can also be running. So it's got the asynchronous capabilities. Okay, WebDirect has plugin support, does not have error logging. So if you run scripts in WebDirect and they're encountering errors, you will never know. You will never find out. So, and if you don't use the set error logging in FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Go, you also will never know that those scripts are failing in some way, which is kind of a big disappointment. But anyway, and it does not have asynchronous support. CWP has plugin support, does not have error logging as well. So if you run scripts in CWP and they encounter errors, they won't get logged. And it does not have asynchronous support. The Data API, it does not have plugin support. I'm on a thread, I'm on a list, and the topic came up yesterday about this topic, and it said, how come that script isn't installing my plugin? I'm running it on Data API. Well, it's not going to support installing plugins and doesn't support plugins currently. Maybe in the future it will, not sure. But you can get around that. So if you call your script using the Data API, at that point you can spawn it off again or let it run the rest of it and perform script on server. So like once you understand the limitations and stuff, you can kind of get around it. So the script gets called in the Data API, and then you can call it on the SASE FileMaker server engine that runs in like the PSOS session. And you can also call it like don't wait. So you can have kind of asynchronous capabilities in that way using this method. So it does not do error logging either. So you have steps that encounter errors, you'll never know about them. Asynchronous capabilities, again, you can get around that using what I just said. Pro and advanced have, so you have those file script triggers on first window open, on window open. That's how many minutes I have left? You're kidding me. Okay. Okay, I'll roll really quickly here. You know, it has these triggers, and every time you open the file, if you've got like a window that you've got a script attached to this event, it will fire those scripts. Go, same thing, sort of. It doesn't really support them exactly, but like if you open a window, it will like last window close. It's kind of semi-supported. So if you've got a script trigger attached to it, and you close a window that way, then it will trigger it, but not in all cases. So it's a little bit of a mix there. Let's see, scheduled scripts, they will perform all the triggers, all the file triggers. So if you have a scheduled script or a PSOS script, you have to be careful of these events because they will trigger those. So if you have a very complicated on-open script and you're trying to take advantage of the performance benefits of PSOS, you have to be careful to exit out of these, otherwise you won't see any benefit with PSOS. WebDirect, it supports all these as well in a similar way that Go does. So like if you have an event that closes a window by a script step, then it will trigger the script. Otherwise, it won't do it necessarily. CWP does not support any of these except in the case where you actually do it with a script step to close the window, and then it'll trigger similarly. And so the same thing with the data API. Okay, so working with file-based script triggers, you also want to check what version you're running, so you can get the version of the application that's running. So like you can understand what engine you're on by that. So you can get the version of the application that you're running, and so somewhat like if you ask for that get application version, you'll get these strings back from what version you're running. So you can determine whether you're on you're on a server process that's performing scripts on server, whether you're on Pro, or whether you're on WebDirect, and so on and so forth. Okay, I did want to get to one last thing. Let's see. This is a way for you to check if you're running on server, so that it's a way for you to exit out of those scripts that are called on the file triggers. And so creative uses, really quick. You can do some cool things. Transference, which is what I said before, which is I'm running it in a data API, but then I can call it to run in perform script on server. So that's transference. Perform imports on server. We can do that natively now with the new combination of the file option steps, the data script steps in 18. And so you can actually perform the imports on the server, which is a huge benefit for solutions where you're importing a lot of data and they're over a WAN. You can transfer the file to the server, and then we have a blog post on that, and you can go look that up, and it's a really simple technique to use. Error logging, unfortunately, error logging, until they give us a central place to do error logging, you kind of have to do a lot of that. I'm going to skip over commit footprint because I want to cover this other thing. So, if you ever lived in Montreal, you're waiting for the bus. It's just a slide there that asynchronous is beautiful because you can fire it off and don't wait, and it's beautiful capability. But we only have it in one place, and wish we had it in other places. Transference, I talked about that. So I can call the data API, it's synchronous. I can call PSOS don't wait, and then it can just transfer that script, the rest of the script to run there. Okay, so I think I'm out of time, right? Am I out of time? Okay, so I'll just, this is this typical slide I do. It's not a bubble chart, but it's this combination of imports and new file-based script triggers and PSOS so that you can run imports on server. But let me show you an example of one last thing here. So, oh, no. Oh, yes. Okay. Yes and no. I feel like, okay, so here. Some of my colleagues are poking away at this. This is a D3 visualization. It's got all the scripts tied together based on the scripts that are in here. And so if I were to poke around in here and go look at something, it will run some code that's running a script that runs on server that calls XML API call that updates this graph real time. So you can do really interesting things once you understand the rules of what's possible in each of these scripting engines. And anyway, so that's the end of my talk. Yeah. Thank you.